Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between continuing your dream or abandoning it? Or have you ever thought to yourself, is it time to give up or not? Before I go any further, let me again ask this to all of you. Have you ever studied while working, or shall I say, who among you here once became a working student while pursuing your undergraduate degree? The year 2010 was one of the worst years for me, but it was also the year of realization. I was in my college days working on my bachelor's degree when my father was diagnosed with a severe condition. He was a diabetic, and at the time, his medication consumed all of our resources. We are on the verge of getting a loan from a various lending institution to meet our daily needs as well as my father's medication. Our farm isn't doing well, and we had the worst cropping season on record, not to mention the pestilence that ravaged the rice paddies. I can still remember the words uttered by my mother being on the situation. She said, Twin, undang na lang kay dili na kaya namo ni Papa nimo nga paiskwelahon ka. Twin, your father and I can no longer afford to send you to school, so please discontinue your studies. Many words echoed my deepest percept. This is precisely what my inner self murmured. I am in my third year of studies and I will graduate next year. If I stop now, I will lose my interest to going back again to school. What should I do? But in reality, I just answered my mother. Sige ma, okay ra, nakasabot ko. Okay ma, I understand. Days passed, and the enrollment for the next semester was fast approaching. I already conditioned myself that I will no longer continue my educational endeavor. A week before the said enrollment schedule, my uncle, who's now a school principal, paid a home visit to my grandma's house. I made mention to him that I will stop my studies because we are running out of finances. Then he answered me, kung muundang ka karon, sunod tuig, madato ba mo? If you stop your studies now, do you get rich next year? I hesitantly answered, dili kol. Then he answered me back, unya nga nung muundang man ka, and why do you stop going to school? I just paused and I didn't answer back. He didn't explain. Ingna si mama nimo nga ako magbayad sa imong tuition ug other fees. Ingnon pud nako si auntie nimo nga padalan ka allowance kada bulan. Please tell your mother that I will pay for your tuition fees and other fees. And I will tell your auntie, her sister, to send you money for your monthly allowance. I just smiled back and said, sige kol, ingnon ako si mama. Okay, uncle, I will inform my mother. My uncle was correct. Nothing will change in our financial status or situation in the coming years if I stop going to school that time. There's a huge possibility that situation may worsen on the next preceding years. So by the second semester of that year, I enrolled myself as a third year student. That was also the time when I already overloaded with a lot of coursework. And added to that was the expenses incurred for photocopies of references, researches, and assignments. Can you just imagine the viand that I had was a half slice of hard-boiled egg for breakfast and the other slice for my lunch. It's dreadful. But I kept telling myself, this is just temporary and everything will be fine. I didn't even eat anything during recess. Instead, I went to the library and read books to kill time, or shall I say, I will prepare myself for the incoming board exam in the next 2 years. That was one of the toughest years of my life. Running out of money, being concerned about your family situation, not paying my room rentals on time, and so forth. Not to mention, I don't have serious relationships at that time. Just kidding. So I went to the student affairs office, and luckily, there was a slot for a student assistant. That time, the student assistant will be paid around 25 pesos per hours of service. Not bad, and a huge help for someone like me whose finances are strained. During the interview with one of my professors, who is also the in charge of the student affairs, I simply told her about my efforts and the living condition that I was. To cut the long story short, my professor was moved and chose me as a student assistant from among the applicants. I was assigned at the university library, and my task was to clean bookshelves, arrange library materials, create newspaper clippings, guide students in library systems, assist graduate students in finding related literature for their master thesis, and a lot more. Being a student assistant was indeed tedious. You have to arrive at the school library at around 6 a.m. and you will have to go home at around 7 or 8 p.m. in the evening. My life there was a roller coaster ride of extreme happiness, sadness, excitement, and horror. Like there was a time that I was arranging books in the Filipiniana section, and that was around quarter to 7 p.m. And suddenly, the wall fan from the other section of the library wing got turned on. That was nerve-wracking and horrible. How did a wall fan turn on when I already turned it off a while ago? I just paused a bit and said to myself, Edwin, padayon. Padayon sa imong journey para makagraduate ka. Walay lugar ang hadlok karong panahona. Edwin, padayon. Continue your journey so that you will graduate someday. There's no room for fear at that moment. So I just simply go to that said library wing and simply turn off the fan and said, ayaw baya ko ninyong binuangi ha? Amigo baya mo na ako tanan. Please don't play with me. You are all my friends here. Padayon means to continue, and it best describes the Cebuanos' resilient and positive spirit. We always find a reason to move forward no matter how difficult the situation is. When faced with adversity, there's only one thing you can do. Move forward. Don't let life's challenges break you. If I stop my studies that time, I may not become a teacher right now. If I will let myself consume with all of my problems, I may not know how to handle it at present. If I also let myself being afraid of the experiences at that moment, I may not be as a little brave right now. There comes a time in our lives when we must choose between two options. However, we must consider whether these options will assist us in continuing our journey. At that moment, all I can say is, if you have a future plan, padayon for that. Continue to fly high because whatever we aspire will be given to us. Be like sailors in the ocean. Be mettlesome for all the obstacles that might come your way. And finally, let me again ask this once more to you. Have you ever been in a situation wherein you had to choose between continuing your dream or abandoning it? Whatever your answer is, all I could think of is padayon. Thank you.